What's up, everybody? It's Logan here with East Tennessee Eats and Drinks again. We're out here on the deck for Deck Pours February edition of 2024, and today we're going to be tasting what a lot of people are putting up against each other: the brand new Old Forester 1924 and the OG, in my opinion, one of my favorites, the Old Forester 1920. I really love that one. Just hits on the spot for me. It just really coats my palate, and I'm a big Old Forester fanboy, so what can I say? They are a little bit different on the flavor profile. They have different mash bills. Okay, first up, we're going to hit the 1920. And the reason I'm going with the 1920 first, even though it's a higher proof, is it's the original. This one's 115 proof. Something else about Old Forester that you may not know is they don't have in the name of their whiskey, they don't have. What do you see missing there? How about a point? There's no E in whiskey. Well, that's from their heritage, okay? So, if you know anything about whiskey, if you know, you know. That's all I'm going to say. So, there are some American bourbon / whiskeys that don't have the E. If you can name another one, put it in the comments. I think I'd like to do a little trivia here. So another cool thing about this one is when I first started getting into whiskey, I put a sticker on when I bought the bottle, the year. Why haven't I opened this? Good question. It's probably because I've got other stuff. Yeah. So over the last 3.5, 4 years, I've really been exploring whiskeys. So this one is one that I know I could come back to. I've always liked, and I've been trying a lot of other stuff. So we're going to give this one a redo, and I've had it since then, of course, but we're going to go back after the 1920. It's been a long time. So here we go. Yeah. All right. 1920, y'all. What do you think about 1920? Are you a big fan of the Prohibition Style? Are you a big fan of the Whiskey Row series? Let's get a nose on this one. I'm getting some orange peel. Maybe a little bit of cherry, Luxardo cherries going on here. Really decadent, sugary. All right, let's take our first sip. And again, you know how I do these. I'm going to take 3 sips. I'll give you some assessments along the way. I typically like to get 3 sips in before I give a final because I haven't drank anything today. So I really want to open my palate up to the different flavor profiles that could be available. All right, up front I got some of that cherry, orange. And the backside now I'm getting some chocolate bar, some maybe, definitely milk chocolate, Hershey's. Cheers. All right, I'm starting to get a lot of the oak notes coming through. Definitely get chocolate bar on the back. Maybe even some vanilla wafer now. Finishing with some orange zest and a little bit of spice, but not a ton for 115 proof. Is a good pour. So overall, it's still a great pour for me. I really love this one. You can't go wrong with the Old Forester 1920 Prohibition Style 115 proof. It's one of my favorites. So, one more for good measures, right? I mean, we're on the deck. Why not? Yeah, definitely the vanilla notes coming through now. Still get that Luxardo in the nose. And then orange zest and slight pepper on the finish. Really good pour. Love it. All right. Next up, Old Forester 1920. This is their 10-year age-stated Whiskey Row series. Key point on this one is it's not the same mash bill as 1920. It's also not the same mash bill as anything else on the Whiskey Row series. or anything else with the Old Forester label to my knowledge. You know, fact check me on that one, but this one is a different mash bill. Go look it up and do some research. You'll figure this out. You'll see where it came from. A little story behind it. Or I can just give it all away. Just message me in the comments and I'll tell you all the secrets. This one is a 10-year-old expression that honors the 100th anniversary of the occasion, where they took those whiskeys with different mash bills and distilled them on Howard. I want you to take another look at what's going on here. This one is kind of funny to me. Look right here. They put the E back in it. Sus. Not sure what that's about, but they still are Old Forester whiskey minus the E. Get us a fresh glass and pour this one. So sometimes people are like, what are you doing with the bottle? Well, I'm just wetting the cork, making sure we get, we're not going to break the cork. In this case, I haven't had this very long. I just get in the habit of doing that. And sometimes it'll give us a good pop too. Not as good as the fresh pop, but we still got a little pop. All right. Old Forester, 1924, 10-year-old. In the East Tennessee Eats and Drinks Glencairn. This one's been open for a little while. You can see about a third of this bottle, maybe a little bit more than a third, has been shared or consumed. So I have poured some out in samples for friends here around. They wanted to give it a try. Way different nose on this. A lot more oak on this. Oh. Okay. I've not gotten this on the nose before I did this side by side. I am getting gasoline. Here's the kicker. I love the smell of gas when we're pumping gas. I'm not gonna, sit there and snort it or whatever, but all right, that's fading away a little bit now. Now we're getting more stone fruit and oak, much richer, a little bit of molasses, heavy oak influence on this one, followed by the traditional, what I would call traditional Old Forester taste of the chocolate bar. This one is more of a Kit Kat and finishes just as warm from a proofing perspective as the 115. It's the same mouth coat. It actually has a little bit more on the tongue and in the palate on the tingle or the burn, as some would call. For me, this one is really great. Oaky flavors, great pour. The only bottle that I have purchased so far this year, which is a freaking miracle. Some baking spice, a little bit of caramel. Of course I'm gonna get caramel, but more like the topping on a hot fudge sundae with caramel and nuts. So there's a little bit of walnut in here, and I think that, to me, I'm getting the nuttiness because of the oak influence, because it is much richer. Let's look at these from a color perspective. This is 1924. This is 1920. Let's look at it in the bottle, side by side. So let's go back to the 1920. This one's getting a lot more fruit flavors, orange flavor notes, and not as much oak influence, of course, as stated. And 1924, much deeper, rich, a hint of maple syrup or molasses here on this one. If I had to pick one or the other, which one would I pick? The moment of truth. Which one would you pick, Logan? 1924 or 1920, if you had them in a taste off and it was a blind? Full transparency, okay? I'm not taking into account, I know nothing. If this was completely blind and I had to pick one of the others of these two, 1924. Why? Because I tend to enjoy the deeper, richer, oakier bourbons, the older stuff with a little bit more complexity in the barrel influence. That's my personal preference. There is nothing wrong with either one of these. Just purely on taste, I would pick 1924 over 1920. My personal preference. Now let's take into account some other things that are an influencer when it comes to which one of these would I pick if I had to pick this in a store tomorrow. Value-wise, 1920 is an outstanding value in the 60 range, maybe sometimes a little below 60, sometimes a little above 60. It's a decently priced, what I would call a bourbon that you can afford. It's on a budget, and it's a great flavor at 115 proof. One of the best that if you asked me to pick one as a go-to bourbon, I'd pick it all day long. As many of you know, 1924, 100 proof, less proof. It is 115 plus retail. Value-wise, I'm picking 1920 over 1924 because I could get almost, and in some cases all the time, 2 bottles to 1 here. If I'm trying to get a bourbon that is a pour that I want to share, it's something, a special occasion, I want to give it as a gift to a whiskey enthusiast, 1924 is a solid pick, and I would pick it over 1920. So trying to compare taste profiles of these two, not the same mash bill, they don't have the same tasting profile, they don't have the same proof, they don't have the same age statements. There's not much similar other than this word right here, Old Forester Whiskey Row Series. Other than that, we shouldn't be comparing these. We should not be comparing these two whiskeys, even though they're from the same distillery. These are two unique monsters with wonderful flavors that can be enjoyed by you and your friends, your whiskey enthusiasts, your family, and anyone else that enjoys the spirit and the craft that goes into making these. I hope you enjoyed this February Deck Pour series comparing Old Forester's 1920 to 1924. One last thing I want to try as an outtake is, what if I blended these two? Maybe it's going to be good. Oh my. This is actually smelling fantastic. This is a vanilla birthday cake. Oh yeah. And the icing. You got the cream icing on top. That's a birthday cake. I'm sorry. That's great. Drink it like you like it. Cheers.